Siguiente ponente es una reina de la gripe, es una compañera nuestra, veterinaria, es un tema de zoonosis también, como sabéis, la gripe. Ella está en la actualidad de profesora, es italiana, estuvo muchísimos años trabajando en Europa, hace muy poquito la ficharon los norteamericanos y está en la Universidad de Miami. Es una reina de la gripe, ha trabajado enormemente en gripe animal. Por supuesto es un virus que también esta tarde tenemos a Raúl, que por lo menos está por aquí, no sé si se ha marchado un momento. Raúl, hemos traído a un experto en humana, vamos a trabajar desde las dos perspectivas y tenemos la gran suerte de que Hilaria esté con nosotros. Ella iba a estar en vivo aquí con nosotros, pero ha sufrido una enfermedad grave su suegra y no ha podido venirse desde Miami, donde está ahora de profesora, y bueno, lo va a hacer vía internet. Es una pena porque aparte de una excelente viróloga, es una excelente comunicadora, una comunicadora extraordinaria, y seguro que os hubiera encantado poderla tener en vivo. Ahí tenemos a Hilaria, por lo menos la foto, así que si nos conecta Marta, pues vamos a hablar con ella. Aquí la tenemos. Good morning, Hilaria. Buongiorno, buongiorno.
Hello everyone. Hello, how are you?
I'm sure that you must be very happy because last night Italy win.
Yes, but you will not believe this, but I don't follow football, and I went to bed and I found out they at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations anyway.
I'm sorry because I know it was Rigori, which is terrible.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, terrible.
I would like to thank you a lot, Hilaria. I know that you have a bad time with your family, but I appreciate a lot. All of us appreciate a lot that you can join us. Thank you very much. The floor is yours. So you go ahead.
Thank you, Jose Manuel. So just to let you know that I see the table with some bottles. That's what I see. So I don't see you, and I don't see the audience. So maybe you want to turn the camera of the computer, I don't know. I will...
Puedes cambiar la cámara para que nos vea.
I will, as you know, I have a presentation.
We are trying to put the camera in way that you can see all of us.
Yes,
Just to give a little feedback, Hilaria, because I know feedback is important. Do you see us already, or a few of us?
Wait.
I'm here, Hilaria.
Yes, now I can see you. Now it's much better. Yes, and you can see me well, yes?
Yes, perfectly. We saw you great. Thank you.
Okay, I'm coming. I am just opening my presentation. Which is not where it's supposed to be, which is very strange.
This is the revenge for your win last night. It's the Spanish revenge.
Yes, it's true. It's the Spanish revenge.
Absolutely.
I can't believe this.
Absolutely.
I just can't believe this. Okay, so it's disappeared. It has. Yeah, this is incredible. Okay, so will you give me just 1 minute if I can find it, because
Sure.
it will be so much better, right, if I can find it.
Sure.
So I just looked for Madrid.
Okay.
Okay, and I found it. Here it is. Okay. You see?
Not yet.
You nearly made me go in panic. Okay. But there you are. Is this good?
Yeah.
You can see?
Yeah, make large picture.
Yes,
Yeah.
I will. 1 minute. And then like this. Is this good?
Yeah. Now perfect, Hilaria.
Perfect. Okay. So thank you very much, and I apologize for last night on behalf of all the Italians, because if you win a football game, you win it not at rigori. So with this, I would like to talk to you about a new way of looking at health, which has its heart in the One Health concept that we all understand and that we have worked with for many years. And in fact, I am happy to be here and to acknowledge the work and the tremendous effort of Isabel Mínguez Tudela, who actually created the foundations for the One Health response that is now operational and very proud of itself in Europe, and for pandemic preparedness from viruses of animal origin. And so, because I know that many of you have known her, and I know that she was José Manuel's student and friend, and my friend, I always like to remember her whenever I can, because I'd like to carry her with me as my career develops. So let me start with a fun fact. I have now worked in America for many years, and this is something you do, a fun fact. So there's this British mathematician that estimated that all the viruses that infect people at one given moment in time can fit inside a can. So I think it's quite clear that pathogens are very small, but also that they can be very powerful agents of change. And I think that we are experiencing this. And of course, it's not the first time, because we know that pandemics have had in the past transformational they have been transformational events, and COVID-19 is just one of the pandemics that will have a transformational, that will behave as a transformational event. So what does this mean exactly? Well, it means that if it's a transformational event, there will be a before and there will be an after, because there's a transformation. It also means that systems are shaken and some systems may collapse. And it also means that we are a species, we are one species of the species that are affected by the pandemic, and that we should learn from this, and as a species we should move on. And I really like to show that, you know, it's no surprise that COVID-19 is caused by a virus which has an origin in animals. Because if you look at the great plagues and the great pandemics that have happened and that we know of, virtually all of them have an animal reservoir or a viral ancestor in animals. The bubonic plague, we know, is carried by rats. Spanish flu, the original virus that triggered the pandemic, the hemagglutinin gene came from an avian virus, so from a bird. HIV, of course, came from monkeys, and so on and so on. I mean, I think I don't need to tell you any more. But I would like also to point out that you see here on the bottom left, it says Plague of Justinian. Well, the Plague of Justinian was a plague that has estimated to kill maybe up to 100 million. And this plague, which occurred in Istanbul, is believed to have caused 10,000 people dying a day in Istanbul. Now that we know what lots of dead people look like, because we've seen it and we've experienced it with hundreds, Italy was crippled with 400 people dying every day in the whole country. And during the Plague of Justinian, there were 10,000 people dying a day only in the city of Constantinople. And of course, this infection was spread through travel, just like SARS-CoV-2, and with the help of rats, of course, because rats were carried on ships, and it affected a lot of what was the center civilization at that time. So let's zoom to where we are now, okay? So what are we talking about? We're talking about a bat virus, or I would say a virus of bat origin that has affected another species, which is human. And we still don't know if, there's quite a few things we don't know around this, the emergence of the virus. One of the things we don't know is whether there was really a pangolin involved, because we are unsure about this. We're unsure of whether there were other animals that were involved in generating the virus. We do know that there certainly was at one certain point in time spillover of this virus from the animal reservoir, whatever it was, to another animal, which you see is wearing a t-shirt up here and often manipulates bats. And so we don't know if the spillover happened here, which would be quite unsurprising, I would say, because this has happened several times. We know that live animal markets are the perfect place for these viruses to emerge, and we know with influenza as well, so there would be no surprise. But as you know, there is another theory which also has like a bifurcation, and the bifurcation is that the virus that is causing this pandemic could have been a virus of bat origin, which was manipulated in the lab with gain-of-function experiments or whatever experiments, and then there was a lab accident. And so basically we don't know where the spillover event happened, and if it happened in the lab, you all know that this is not like the first time. It has happened in the past. From smallpox that leaked out of a UK lab in the late 70s, lab accidents happen. And so because there's lots of question marks and lots of questions that still have answers, there is an ongoing debate that the virus, let's say the spillover event occurred inside a lab and then it leaked. Now, this picture here shows you what Wuhan looked like 100 years ago. And so certainly there wouldn't have been a lab, and they wouldn't have been playing around with bat viruses 100 years ago, but probably there would be in those buildings, those were animal markets all the same. And so it is possible that this event of spillover from a bat virus through another host to a human, there's camels, that's what MERSs do, happen, over time, maybe several times. But it's not going to go very far if it's riding on the back of a camel. It is going to get very far if it is instead on planes, and this is exactly what happened. So we had basically an accelerated pandemic, which I think transforms many of the ways we need to look at this problem to the coming challenges. So this virus spread to the whole world, and I would say, as we would expect, it's actually not behaving the same way everywhere. It is behaving in many different ways, and this is completely disorienting for the general public who didn't ever even imagine that something like this was going to affect them. And so COVID-19 should be seen as a multi-system stress test. This is what it is doing, because it is behaving in certain ways on the basis of what we would say certain conditions. So it is lethal, yes, under certain conditions. It is highly contagious. It can be non-symptomatic under certain conditions. It causes long COVID under certain conditions. It causes under certain conditions. And so it's really difficult to frame. And it is having ramifications because of this unique behavior. This is having many ramifications on our life, and that's why it is going to be a transformative pandemic. Because if you look at it under the lens of it being a multi-system stress test, you will see that it affects and affect many systems. So, and of this, we will need to respond to citizens, to people, because people expect something from us. Okay, so this multi-system, first of all, caused or shown us that if we cut some of the emissions, we can actually clean the air or have a cleaner air. It has shown us that maybe it wasn't very healthy for ourselves and for the planet to be on the plane all the time, traveling hundreds, I would say thousands of hours. Maybe I think that, excuse me, Jose Manuel has traveled hundreds of thousands of hours, right, on planes. I think, maybe it's a bit too much, but certainly thousands of hours. And I think that maybe now there's better ways to achieve those results without polluting so much and without having to force this immense, I would say, exercise on your body. COVID-19 has also devastated some cities. It has devastated and hurt very, very some cities. One of them is Milan. Madrid is another one of them. New York is another one of them. London is another one of them. And these cities need to become resilient. They need to never be able to invest in a sustainable future that will never make this happen ever again. This multi-system stress test has changed the way that we can be spiritual. This is the pilgrimage at the mosque. It's the Hajj. This is how the Hajj was held this year. You all remember the pictures of St. Peter's Square with the Pope by himself praying Mass on Easter Day. It has certainly changed a lot our relationship with animals and with biodiversity and how people perceive this. And this is a gigantic opportunity for the One Health community. People understand now that there are issues with wildlife and that there are certain things that we should be careful about. And this is a very, very big change. It has freed enormous resources in Europe and in the United States and everywhere. And this, I think this energy, this financial energy can actually be useful novel approaches, because we certainly cannot survive another one like this. So we must change some things. They have to be changed. And also it has had, it has made us reflect a lot about gender. And I will say a few things about this at the end of my presentation. So what I want to say to you is that, you know, every cloud has a silver lining, we say, but I think that this cloud, this pandemic, has much more than a rainbow inside it. And the rainbow that I can see is that human beings have finally understood, a lot of human beings, okay, a lot of educated human beings outside the veterinary world have understood that we are part of a system and that we are one of the members of the animal community, and that we actually are in charge of the rest, and that we should become guardians of the planet rather than invaders of the planet. And basically this allows us to do something which is completely new, but is actually quite obvious, which is that to advance health as a system. And we do have the Sustainable Development Goals as a roadmap, and we should make our efforts dovetail into those Sustainable Development Goals so that we can actually advance in a harmonized manner. But there is more that is happening, because we have disciplines, we know, that have, let's say, not often collaborated one with the other. It's been very difficult to break the silos, right? To break the silos. But there's a big change that is happening, because we are experiencing open science. Those disciplines are becoming made of glass, and so we can see through them, and we can use what is inside them. And if we look at things from a different point of view, we can actually reassemble those disciplines in a different way and use the knowledge that is in there and make it converge towards health. Because I think that the whole world has realized that health needs to be central to whatever we do in the future. So, this is a lot of nice words, and I'm sure that you all agree with what I'm saying, but what can we do? Okay, so what, right? So what? And there's lots to do, and I think that the pandemic will make this happen, is actually making this happen, because there are so many disciplines that are now interested in converging, in offering their knowledge to mitigate the effect of another pandemic. So circular health is happening. But I would like to give you a couple of ideas on how can we really change things. Okay, change, do profoundly, things that can profoundly change for the better. What I was saying is that I'm sure that you all agree with me that there are some things that need to be changed, and there's maybe time and space to do it now. And if we want to look at big challenges for the future, we need to look at big picture things. And so I have, we need to look at changing the way we do things. And so how can we co-advance the health of humans, animals, plants, and the environment? How can we think of big changes that we can bring to systems so that we can actually make these compartments all benefit from our efforts? And so I have three ideas. One is about the present. My slides are not moving. My slides are not moving. Anyway, one is about the present, one is about the future, and one is about the past. And I will start with the one which is about the past, which is about antimicrobial resistance. Before COVID-19, antimicrobial resistance was considered to be one of the greatest public health threats, which needed urgent attention. And it was estimated that there would be more deaths from AMR than from any other, even a cardiovascular disease and cancer. And so it's not that AMR has gone away, right? AMR is still around. And so we know that some of those antimicrobial resistance mechanisms come from the veterinary world, they come from agriculture, they come from the interface with water because they are flushed down the toilet. And so we should realize that with COVID-19, this situation will have changed, right? Because during COVID-19, I'm sure that there has been a lot of antimicrobials that have been used in hospitals. And so COVID-19 has certainly impacted AMR, and we need to join the dots once and for good. It cannot be that we now start chasing new problems and we forget about AMR when we have understood the power of digitalizing health, because the pandemic has given a great acceleration to the digitalization of health. And we need to do this across disciplines, across sectors, and across countries as well, because we understand the global dimension of this problem. The idea I have for the future is an idea which is about unleashing the power of immunization. So we have seen what a vaccine, a new generation vaccine, can achieve with COVID. It can block a pandemic, basically. If we had enough of it, and if we had it in time, and if we had it all together, we would we would have probably blocked it, or I would say significantly mitigated its effect. So this is what vaccination can achieve. But we haven't been good enough to make these fantastic products, accessible to everyone. And so what's going to happen is that because some parts of the world are not going to get vaccinated, there will be active viral circulation and we will have variants. And variants are going to impact everybody's health. So we have a problem about equity, and we have a problem about accessibility. And so here is my circular health idea. I just wanted to remind all of you that today we still substantially make vaccines with fermentation technology. So it is a very old technology that requires certain equipment, infrastructure, but above all, it requires refrigeration. And so we had to send vaccine to the whole world in freezers, which, if you think about it, makes things much more complicated. Plus, as we know, not every country has access to, or every area of every country has access to continuous electricity. And so what happens is that this is how our COVID vaccines, excuse me, and our Newcastle disease vaccine, as a matter of fact, get delivered. They get delivered in an ice box that could be at any temperature in the world. And so the question I have for you is, does it make sense that we're still making vaccines that do not resist at room temperature. Why can't we look as one of the legacies of COVID to have thermostable vaccines that can be used and that can be shipped at room temperature? Because also the facilities that are available in certain countries are absolutely inadequate to store them, and apart from distribution, because the equipment is old. And so basically, not only there isn't enough vaccine for them, but the vaccine that we are delivering, we are delivering it in a format that doesn't make sense for certain countries. And basically, if we could make this click, right, that now we have the attention of the world, of the big players of the world, of the importance of vaccine. Now we have vaccines that can achieve what we have seen in Italy, in Spain, in the UK, in the United States. If we could invest in vaccines that are thermostable, so that can resist at room temperature, we could get the tail of COVID, because COVID, it'll take some years, so it's not going to be, it won't do anything now, but it will help us to get the end of COVID. But then we can use it for other diseases like measles, like Newcastle disease, like PPR, like other vaccines that are required, especially in developing countries, and that would be so much more efficacious if only they didn't need to be stored at refrigeration. And this would also contribute to reducing AMR, because we know that if you use more vaccines, you get a lower chance of bacterial secondary infections, which is the cause, of course, of use of antibiotics. And if we can stretch our imagination, we would be looking at an investment now that could reduce the burden of vaccine preventable diseases worldwide by 2050. And this is one of the challenges that a transformational event like this one should bring. Because on top of it, there's also the carbon footprint, because transporting and storing these vaccines at minus 70 or minus 20 or even plus 4 has a substantial carbon footprint. So why don't we use this problem that we have on equity and accessibility to look into new technology? Why can't we make 3D printed vaccines? Why can't we look into making graphene chips that can work as vaccines? Patch technology. We have the technology. We have the technology. We just need to be brave enough to understand that it's going to require investments, but the payback will be enormous. And given that I dedicated this talk to Isabel Minguez Tudela, I would like to suggest something for the present. What can we do now, right? And one of the things that we have learned from this pandemic is that, just in case we had any doubts, women and men are different. And they're not only different with reference to their biomedical let's say outcome, but they are different because of the costs that the health service incurs. They are different because some men and women are diversely compliant to rules and regulations. We know that women have suffered job losses more than men. We know that women, though, are the ones that can change the behavior of the family, so they have a very instrumental role. and also they have suffered the greatest burden of the pandemic. And so because we acknowledge that women and men are different, and we acknowledge that we want to help men, but we also want to help women, we would be very grateful. I am a representative of the women category, but this is irrelevant. If we could do something which is really easy peasy, and it's this. This is the most measured event in the world, okay? In history. We will study data sets that come out of data that has been collected for whatever reason for years and years to come. Currently, most data sets are not disaggregated by sex and gender. So that means that if I want to understand the effect of reduced mobility in cities during the lockdown and the impact on mental health, I can buy that data from a company. But if I want it disaggregated by sex and gender, I will have to pay 25% more. And I think that this is unacceptable. And so I am very vocal. I am pushing this idea through several international scientific societies, because it's time that sex and gender data are included by default in any study that we do. At least let's make the pandemic leave us some good things. And these are good things that we have to advocate for, but they are good things that we need to do a better job in understanding such a complex problem like the one that we have experienced. And this brings me to, what I just said. The COVID pandemic is the most measured event in history. And so we have an immense amount of data, which is not clean, which is not interoperable, which is not perfect, which has many issues. But I think that most of those issues are resolvable, and I think that now is the time to look at all that data and see how we can find novel convergencies towards health. And this is just to remind us, and it brings me back to my first slide, that what I try to convince stakeholders and policymakers is that our health, the ancient Greeks used to say this, our health is linked to the health of the earth, to the health of water, as we know, to the health of air, and to the health of fire. And things haven't changed. I just think that we have so much information, we have open science which is coming our way, and we should try and make this visionary diagram a sort of steering wheel that can guide us into the future as we navigate more complex systems. And with this, I would like to thank you for your attention, and it has been a real pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Chairman. No. Thank you very much, Hilaria. Thank you very much for these beautiful presentations, for the key points that you give it to the floor, for the future, the present. Also for remember Isabel. I really love it. Thank you very much. I don't know if there are any questions. ¿Hay alguna pregunta para Isabel, para Hilaria? Carlitos. Good morning. ¿No hay preguntas? Raúl. Raúl tiene una pregunta. Hilaria, Raúl Ortiz de Lejarazu, One Flu Guy.
Bueno, I don't know if you remember me, Daria. Congratulations.
I can't see you.
Yeah.
Ven aquí, que no te ve. Toma, déjame.
I can't see. I can't see you, Raúl.
Acércate, Raulito. Siéntate ahí, sí.
We have a nice picture.
Ah, yes.
I think.
Hello.
I think it's 10 years ago here in the Escorial. You dress in a nice blue, nice blue dress, robe. Well,
I don't know.
I just
Italian women, that's what we do, just like Spanish women.
you look pretty, Laria. You look very pretty.
Thank you.
I'm disguised in white now. Well, I remember I've been very impressed for your presentation, but I want to make you a comment about what you say about to include gender, sex into the future trials and into also the epidemiological consideration wherever the pandemic is. And recently we have published, a few weeks ago, one work in Frontiers Immunology by telling that about influenza in humans. We discovered that the immunity, the production of antibodies in influenza is different by gender when you study elderly people, even if the basal antibodies is equal. So I fully agree with you about this is a very important aspect. It's not a question of feminisms, but it's a question of science. I would like
thank you. And actually, this is something that we need to ask as a community, right? So I think that the only way to, there's two ways that this, I think, can be implemented. First of all, we refuse to look at data which is not disaggregated by sex and gender. And then governments should give tax credits to these companies that provide data that is already this, so some sort of incentive to make this the norm. And it'll take some time, but it is like, if we don't do it now, we're going to do it in 50 years.
Yeah.
And I think we should do it now, because, as you say, there's more and more that's coming out that shows that we are very different.
Of course. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Hilaria. ¿Alguna otra pregunta? ¿No? Ya, por favor. Ven para acá, para que te oigamos bien. It's another question more, Hilaria, please. Gracias a ti. Sí, pero por la vía no pasa nada, ¿eh?
Vale, thank you.
Te lo digo yo.
Hello, Hilaria. Thank you so much for this amazing talk. Okay, thank you. Hello. Hello, Hilaria. Thank you so much for this amazing talk. I'm a pharmacy student and I really admire your work. I wanted to ask you, because you touched upon some of the effects of how the environment beneficiated some way from the pandemic in terms of the cut of emissions. But I was wondering if you could tell us some effects, like how, if we protect the environment, if we prevent climate change, how that would help human health. So the other way around, from the One Health perspective, if you could just tell us some examples. Thank you.
Well, if we protect biodiversity, we support human health. You will know that there are new species of insects that were thought to be extinct that are actually now emerging, that are re-emerging. You know that there is a very important role of bees, of honeybees, in maintaining a certain type of pollination, and there's been issues with losses in numbers of bees. And so I actually believe that exactly what you are saying, which is the citizen engagement in understanding these little segments that contribute to a circular vision, is going to be fundamental. And we can do it by using technology. We can do it. We are working with a startup company which has been selected by the United Nations to gamify sustainability. So basically, they provide you with training, short edu training modules where you learn about the bees and you learn about this and you learn about that, and then you take a picture and you upload it on their website and you provide a map of all the bees of all that area. And they put this in the form of challenges, and so it's engaging for the young, for the younger generations. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of how can we extract, I would say, the awareness that we have gained during this year and a half of pandemic of how important it is to protect our environment and be guardians of the environment for our own, also for our own interest. Because I always say, like, somebody has to be in charge here. So we can do it, or we can ask the earthworm, Lumbrico, to do it.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It's definitely very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Eladia. Thank you very much. We have to stop now because we have the next one. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.